Today we're going to talk about how to become a better reader and writer by reading as a writer. In other words, looking for writers' moves and noticing what writers are doing to make a good story so that you can use that as a model for your own writing and understand what you're reading a little better. So to do this, you have to look a little bit beyond the plot and look at how the writer is making the plot more engaging. What is making this reading fun? Look for the good writing moves that make you want to keep reading. For example, you might want to look at why is the author writing this, the purpose. Look at the word choice. Think about the emotions you're feeling and how the writer got you to feel that way. Who did the author intend to be reading this? Are you in the intended audience? Is maybe that one reason that it's going so well for you? Or do you think maybe the author intended it for a different type of reader? And that might be why there could be a disconnect. Look at how the text is organized, and not just plot structure, but how paragraphs are organized and sentences are organized. All of these things build up to make engaging text. And then last but not least, the writer's moves. What moves did the writer specifically use for this genre? Ask yourself, ooh, why did he use that word? Or why did he use that structure? Or why that particular piece of figurative language? So here's some examples. Here's an excerpt from The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. There was a hand in the darkness, and it held a knife. The knife had a handle of polished black bone and a blade finer and sharper than any razor. If it sliced you, you might not even know you had been cut. Not immediately. The knife had done almost everything it was brought to that house to do, and both the blade and the handle were wet. The street door was still open, just a little, where the knife and the man who held it had slipped in, and wisps of nighttime mist slithered and twined into the house through the open door. That is good writing. So let's take a moment and examine this writing through the eyes of a writer. First, it's written by Neil Gaiman. Why does that matter? Because it gives us a clue to the purpose. We know Neil Gaiman has written a book called The Graveyard Book. And if you research him, you know he's into writing creepy fantasy and comics. So he's probably intending this for people who would enjoy that genre and that kind of writing. Also, the title gives you a clue, right? That it's going to be kind of scary and that people who like that might enjoy this book. Next, look at this first paragraph. There was a hand in the darkness, and it held a knife. Why does that matter? What do we learn from this? Well, it tells us a little bit about, it shows us a move that he's using purposefully to pack a punch. That is a short paragraph, one short compound sentence. And it is short and sweet and to the point because it's jarring. And that's how the whole thing starts. Next, the description of the knife. If it sliced you, you might not even know you had been cut. Not immediately. This builds a sense of danger. First of all, they're using the word you. So that's pulling the reader in, talking directly to the reader. But then if it sliced you, you might not even know you had been cut, not immediately. This is a danger that hits before you know it's there. So that is really effective at creeping you out and making you feel scared. Next, talking about the knife had done everything and that the blade and the handle were wet. They do not spell out what this means, but we can make the assumption, the inference, if you will, that that blade is probably wet with blood. So that builds mood. That makes you feel frightened. And then look at how the wisps of nighttime mist slithered and twined into the house. I think that's giving you some pretty strong snake imagery there, slithering and giving it a sinister feel. And then finally, overall, just the writer's move. The story starts with this threat of the hand in the darkness with a knife. And then it gives the description of the knife, what it can do to you, and the fact that it has already been used. But the job was not done yet. Almost everything it was brought to do, it was not finished. So that builds suspense and makes you want to keep reading. So notice these things. We get involved in a story and we want to know what happens next, but take a moment and notice the craft that the writer has used. And try to take some of those moves and some of those things you notice to make your own writing even better.